right, with that, I have a couple of questions from the audience, and these are going to be the tough ones, right? All right, so considerations, experience and best practices around deploying SecDevOps in a cloud environment. Are you in the cloud environment? Would you consider yourself
We're in the cloud?
You're in the cloud.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have nothing
considerations,
on-prem.
experience, and best practices. Anything top of mind? Is there anything that you did in a cloud environment that you think needs to be a very high priority, or is it just developing like you would any other client server environment?
I will tell you that the easiest things we've done, we've deployed on a platform, right? And from a deployment methodology, we have SonarQube, we have Rocket Chat, right? Those applications are deployed on a platform for us. That makes it a lot easier to maintain, right? That's about the only, and our platforms are in the cloud, and they're on multiple domains, right? I think that it makes it so much easier. We really need to work more with Docker containers and containers in general in my organization. And as we mature more, I see us going towards those containers and nowhere near where Google is doing billions per week. But, I would like to see us doing some containers as we move forward. And I think those are really good for the future. But
what was that? I think, Adam, you brought up something on the prep call about Docker, and I think that went back to the supply chain. 5 million Docker containers.
Yeah. So recently, it was found that there were 17 Docker containers on Docker's public registry that had been compromised to have either remote backdoor capabilities or crypto mining within those containers, and those were deployed. They say over 5 million times. Now, there are, I think, 27 billion total downloads from the Docker registry.
So a very small percentage.
Small percentage. However, one of the organizations found that over $90,000 worth of crypto mining had been done in their data center as a result of that. So small percentage, but high impact, and who knows sort of what the other were. So that absolutely gets right back to your software supply chain security. I think with regard to cloud, we, especially at Red Hat, believe that cloud really has potential to be the mother of all lock-in, right? And so I love the concept that every deployment goes to a platform, and that platform could really be moved to any cloud, right?
It can, or a container can move to any platform, right? Exactly. So that's kind of where we're going. You can move your platform from any cloud. So it doesn't matter if it's C2S or it's AWS or if it's Microsoft. It doesn't really matter. You can put your platform anywhere, and you can move your container from any platform. I can move it from OpenShift to PCF to Mesosphere. It wouldn't make a difference, So we're trying to get more modular in how we execute and not lock ourselves into any one thing, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. So that a lot of that comes from automation, right? If I can automate sort of my workload as it goes into a cloud, then I can begin to automate it out of that cloud. So workload portability is really important. I think as your sort of internal CIO, make sure that your cloud acquisition is not becoming your next mainframe acquisition, right? And so I think every CIO has come into an organization and said they were going to be the one to get the mainframe out of the data center. And what we've learned from that really is that we go through CIOs much frequently than we do mainframes. And so make sure that the change that is basically inevitable, all of this stuff is changing. We're really at 1.0 or 1.5 of cloud infrastructure and technology. And so we know by virtue of the evolution of technology that there is a change ahead of us that is going to be significant. We're not quite sure what that is and what it's going to be, but let's make sure that when the change comes, we've done everything we can to enable ourselves to adapt to that change, right? And I would say that the success of an organization will soon be evaluated on their ability to adapt to change than it will be the number of releases, for example, right?
I think I agree.
Jimmy, anything different about securing cloud apps?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of points. I mean, we've all heard that kind of funny saying, the cloud's just someone else's computer. So it's not, I mean, when you say like, I think like AWS and Azure and Google Cloud, what they've done is they've built these platforms that make it easier to deploy software into someone else's computer, right? And to do so much more efficiently. So it's really not that different, right? I do think though that anytime you hide complexity, there is some risk. And specifically when we start talking about like, if I want to deploy a complicated, poorly built web application, I'm going to give you a Docker container, right? Because I can give you a Docker file and I can programmatically do whatever the heck I want to under the covers, and I can hide all of that complexity to you. If I had to give you an install guide and have you install Kafka and Cassandra and NoSQL and everything else to get my product working, you would be like, holy crap, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. But if I say Docker Hub run, you're okay with it. So you do have to look under the covers, right, and understand what you are deploying when you use containers. Containers are compared to it's definitely like, to me, the future, right? The speed, the efficiency, the ability to replicate the portion of the operating system that you need to run an application. For me, distributing demonstration suites and things that I need to do, Docker is a godsend. It obviously doesn't play very well on Windows, so we'll see how that whole the fight over Hyper-V, and now we can't use virtualization software because Hyper-V is required by Docker, and there's some things there. But I really, the cloud to me is about what you gain in terms of efficiency and deployment, what you gain in terms of like dynamic elasticity, in terms of being able to scale up and scale down with the tools they've built around someone else's computer, right, that they're doing it to, and then the cost. I mean, that's and I don't know in terms of the spaces commercial versus, but we see both models work well because all of this, using someone else's computer with a fancy platform around it, does come at a cost, mm-hmm. right, and it is quite expensive. And while we'll see how it shakes out, I mean, Amazon's killing it, right? It's not a close. Like there's not even like they got like 80%.
And I don't know if you've heard this. They say when your cloud bill gets to $100,000, the provider never stops calling you. When it gets to $1 million, they never call you back. Because essentially they've got you locked. You're never going anywhere.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. So there is some. I think there's still a build versus buy. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, decision to be made, but you get a lot of advantages out of the box. And if you're really a startup or something, there's just no comparison to the.
So, and let me say this, not everything belongs in the cloud, right? I know
that's not very forward thinking.
I know that that's not what the person who said everything will go to the cloud really wants to hear, right? But not everything fits in there with a bow, right? So we're finding that as we're creating these microservices and we're breaking things down into these smaller chunks, that some of it fits very well and it's very easy to do. And I could do these 7 things in a week, right? Where it would have taken me a long time to do them another way, right?
Do you have an example of something that you just wouldn't, besides sensitive data and stuff like that, but do you have something?
We do a lot of storage we have a lot of data in my organization. We have a lot of metadata. We have lots of regular data, right? But it may be that I have so much metadata that I need really quickly that it wouldn't be cost effective for me to put it all into EBS and Amazon. It would cost me 3 times as much as what it's going to cost me to leave that in the data center, right? Yeah. So why wouldn't I just leave it there, and maybe I can move my services and increase their performance so that my overall performance timeline isn't impacted and my customers still get what they need. But, I'm cost effectively making decisions on what needs to go where. And I don't know exactly how we're going to do everything yet. Mm-hmm. Right? We're still working all of that out. I have a big, huge system. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with it right now. Which pieces go to the cloud? Which pieces stay in the data center? And
okay, so it's not an either or. It's hybrid. I mean, the world is hybrid. And,
I think that
we'll be hybrid. Cost and technical and performance and availability justification for how we're going to deploy things. All right, I had one question. Did you have something that you wanted to
I think
add
they
to the
covered things.
cloud best practices?
The only thing I would say is be vigilant and don't get cocky.
Don't get what?
Cocky.
Yeah.
I think that's general life suggestion right there.
It works everywhere.